You know, before I showed up here, there was just the baby sort of, they might have already filed papers for Everwick. They might have already filed, they might have been an official shire when I came,
Okay.
you know, but there was nothing, there was no other group in Ontario. And it was a heck of a culture shock. All grad students, almost all doing medieval history, not just that they were older than me, but the Middle Kingdom, there is, and I actually copied this so I would make no mistake in remembering this, okay? This is, it's used less now than it used to be, because we had 4 original kingdoms, and those 4 original kingdoms stayed with no principalities for 20 or more years.
Oh, wow.
They were just, the society was these 4 ginormous chunks of geography. You know, the West Kingdom was California all the way up to Alaska. We were, Middle Kingdom was we took Manitoba because they were so far from the West. But the West, you know, BC was theirs, Alberta was theirs, Saskatchewan was theirs. And we were, you know, Kansas and Missouri and you know, Illinois and Indiana and Kentucky. Kentucky was part of the Middle Kingdom. Ontario was part of the Middle Kingdom. Oh my God, you know?
Yeah.
So these 4 geographical breakdowns were huge.
Yeah, for sure.
And I everything that I remember and I've been able to find is this little story, this little nugget was originally, I believe, Duke Cariadoc of the Bow, probably one of the most famous dukes in the SCA. He is the man who was king of the East, king of the Mid-Realm, and the timing was such that he declared war on himself.
Oh, I heard about that.
Duke Cariadoc was the man who created the first Pennsic War, and he landed up because first he was Mid-Realm king, then East king, because he grad work and he moved, so he declared war on himself.
Oh my God.
He lost, right? And Cariadoc is an exquisitely authentic, does work on authentic cooking and authentic music. He and his wife, really extraordinary people. They run the enchanted grounds at Pennsic, where you cannot camp with them unless your kit and your gear and everything is totally period.
Oh, wow.
So this sequence, as I remember it, it's been attributed to Cariadoc. I haven't seen anywhere else on the internet. I went looking earlier today where it's attributed to anybody else. So the phrase, we had 4 peoples, okay? They were the peoples of the word, and that's the original. That's the West Kingdom, because it was oral tradition. They came up with it at a party, and so they made it up as they went around, and they told everybody this is how we're going to do it. So they were the people of the word, West Kingdom. The next place the SCA went was the East, because they saw some SCA people doing this thing at a Worldcon. We have very, very deep science fiction fantasy roots. And the people of the word were doing a little demo to get a few more people interested at Worldcon in California. Some of the Eastern science fiction people were like, oh God, this is fun. And when they went home, they started to get that going. They were constantly writing California for, you know, how do you do this? And do you have any rules? And you know, if we want to do this. So they got a whole bunch of documents, including the very earliest bylaws. And so they were called the people of the book, because they were following papers.
Oh,
right?
okay.
They didn't just make it up. It wasn't all orally passed on. They actually had papers coming from the West.
Oh, wow.
The Mid-Realm was the people of the law, because by now and we weren't that far behind the East in the middle. There might have been a year or 2. I don't even think it was more than 3 before the Mid-Realm first group start. And there's no way we're part of either of them because of the huge geography, right? Oh. So the Mid-Realm was they started to regulate all kinds of things. You know, what kind of stuff can you wear on your head? What kind of rank? What does this mean? What does that mean? So in lots and lots of kingdom bylaws and things like that. So Mid-Realm was the people of the law. And then where I came from was called the Atenveldt heresy. And people still refer to us as the Atenveldt heresy. The first 3 kingdoms, they were science fiction fans. So we came out of fandom. We came out of Tolkien fandom. We came out of nerd culture. At 19, you know, my generation wasn't going on for a computer science degree. They were being snatched by developers to create everything we use today. One of my earliest boyfriends, who was an early member of called Rivik of Skraeling, was one of the people who designed, and everybody can hate him, voice recognition systems on your phone. That's what he
Really?
worked in. Yeah.
Oh,
So we
wow.
were geeks and nerds, and we were science fiction fans, and we were all, you know, I mean, we got people primarily at colleges and universities. We, you know,
Yeah.
started a group at a college or
Mm-hmm.
university. Eight Velt didn't. Eight Velt is cowboy culture, and I know that the group in Tucson did root itself at the University of Arizona, but a lot of it were people that they were motorcycle aficionados. I know you
Hmm.
centers. I mean, you know, leathers and motorcycle. A lot of Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
It's very tail end of the Vietnam War. You know,
Mm.
when
Yeah.
71, right? Ending in
Yeah.
73. So you got a lot of vets. You got a lot of motorcycle guys. A lot of people that are very caught up in that, you know, crusader mentality and cowboy culture. You know, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So the entire tone of Baby Atenvelt was really different, and that's where I started. We allowed, and you should have seen the look I got when I went to the first meeting in Everwick and was telling them, and my alternate persona is, and they're all like, because along with historically rooted personas, somebody who could have existed in this or that historical period,
Mm.
we also allowed alternate personas that would come from any science fiction or fantasy literature, as long as it was a comparable technological level.
Ah.
So my alternate persona Sonia was a dragon rider of Pern. Can you imagine the look? Right?
Yeah, I've heard the stories of the look people get just by wearing elf ears.
Oh yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, that very same Duke I was referring to that was involved, that was Earl Marshal at the time, Laurelin, used to call himself Laurelin Darksbane. We had a lot of people who had Tolkien, you know,
Mm.
elf names.
Yeah.
Mordain Blackcloak was Mordain the Black, and Mordain is an elf name.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. The former Society Laurel Queen of Arms was Jael Armida. You know, so you still see a few of these tiny little leftovers. Laurelin showed up at an early event that I ran in Norlande, York University, and he spray painted his hair silver white, and he had like Spock type rubber ears on.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Just saying. I'm sure that he will totally disavow any memory of this, but somewhere I probably have an old square photo of him running around like that.
Oh my God.
That would have been around 1975,
Oh
1976.
wow.
You know, so that I wanted to make sure that I remembered the exact order of those four peoples of the Eight-Velt heresy. So I came
Mhm.
from, it's perfectly fine for me to be running around, you know, as a dragon rider in a kind of fantasy-esque kind of costume to a room full of primarily medieval history majors going.
Yeah.
And I mean, where did almost all the people who started Norland, they come Tolkien Club, remember? Tolkien Club. So, you know, they were elves and hobbits,
Yeah.
and we had at least one who was under 5 foot. Oh, the culture gap between the two groups in Toronto was of legend.
Oh, I would have loved to see that.
It wasn't always particularly cordial, but you know, we all grew up, and you know, I drifted a whole lot more towards Gothic and Norse, and
Mhm.
you know, I do have a persona, and it has a time and a place, but a lot of it for me is, oh God, that garb looks awesome. I need to have some of this garb.
Yeah, I'm the same way. That's basically how I started my garb and picked my persona, was like, this looks cool. I'm just gonna go with that.
I used to wear a lot fussier garb with, hoops and in bum rolls and corsets. And the older I've gotten, the more I really like, linen. These are completely authentic colors. A person of my rank totally would have been able to have metal, silver shot through my trim, and I can throw it in the laundry and it comes out just fine.
Yeah, you don't have to hand wash it.
Wear it in the mud at Penzic or Estrella. Well, Estrella not so much, because they have a really very odd, unique orange-red mud, and it will stain whatever it gets on forever.
Oh, wow.
If you are wearing it and the bottom of your hem gets covered in this, and they get rain, they didn't used to, but climate change, they get rain during Estrella a lot the last few years, like mini monsoon winter rain, which is not usual, not when I live down there. But if you get that reddy orange mud, you're really best when things begin to dry, to take that, whatever that piece of garb is, and whoosh it all in it, so that when you launder it, it will be one color. It's a little like PEI red potato dirt. You'll stain. It's got a high iron content in it.
Yeah, so you might as well just make it into a natural dye.
Exactly. It's completely period. It's authentic. But I mean, I'm now increasingly more step down garb, but it's 100% linen, gown under gown. I will admit, because this was an emergency belt when I had to get it. It doesn't have a tongue. This was one of the other weirdnesses of early SCA. I have no idea who thought that doing this kind of necktie knot without a tongue,
the ring belt
in the buckle. This is a macrame hoop. We were all wearing belts, whether they were fabric or whether they were, leather like this one, without tongues. They're macrame hoops, and I mean, now the necktie knot is authentic. You'll see it on a lot of not just the paintings, but on the funereal casket, the stone tombs and things, all throughout Europe. But you'll always, if you look carefully, you're going to see there's a tongue in there.
Yeah.
Have a sword hanging off it. That's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
This was I got down to 8 belt and realized I had forgotten any kind of belt. One of my Rolling Thunder brothers said, "Here, Tsivia, you can have this," because he sells belts, and just never gotten have anybody.
Yeah, I made the same mistake, actually. Like the very first thing, I think it was pretty much the first piece of garb I got was a ring belt.
Yep.
And as soon as I wore it, I was told oh, actually that's not period. That came from Ren fairs. I'm like, oh, okay, well,
before Ren
I'm
fairs,
still gonna wear it.
It's before Ren fairs. Don't let them fib you out on it. In the late 60s, in the 60s, hippies were doing a lot of macrame. And whether it was, people were wearing early belts that were actually macrame with the ring. And, people had them around the house, and they're cheap.
Yeah, might as well just retrofit them.
In those first 5-6 years, there wasn't anybody making, if you're making armor, you're either making leather armor or you were learning how to metalsmith.
Yeah.
I remember Finvar trying to figure out how to make a gauntlet articulate properly, because we were all using hockey gloves, and, carpet armor and Freon tank helms. And I flew out. I had a mundane school thing in Winnipeg, Castel Rouge, also at that point. Well, they're still part of the Mid-Realm. And, I'd already been in for a number of years, and this young guy who's now, I know he's Sir Evan, and I'm not sure what other titles might be attached to him now, but he comes over and he says, "Oh, Tsivia, I'm trying to work on this gauntlet, but I don't know if it's good enough yet." And I look at it, and it's a deer hide glove, and he has riveted perfect articulating pieces, period, piece, Gauntlet, and I'm like, he says, oh, I'm sorry, what did I do wrong? No, really. You know, I got a Duke in it, you know, out in my part of the country that would love to see how the hell you built this. Wow. A lot of it really was throw us in at the deep end. And so, yeah, ring belts don't appear to be authentic, but they're deeply ingrained in SCA culture. And, you know, we were doing it before Ren fairs existed. So. And pink is period, darn it.
Now, how about orange?
Oh, yeah. Orange is actually fairly easy to come up with.
Okay.
The biggest thing is a lot of these dyes have varying levels of color fastness. We still have trouble with red today.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. You know? If you dye your hair red, that's going to last you like maybe 3 days.
And if you dye fabric, depending on what fabric, like linen is actually somewhat dye resistant. It's not, doesn't love dye. So it's a little less color fast. You'll get muted tones if you wash it enough.
Right.
Silk loves dye. Silk will hold on to dye until you know the universe ends. But red is still a relatively fugitive color even today, right? Wash your reds separately from your whites, or you get bright pink bras and socks.
Yeah.
So you know, you still have those issues, but the hard neon colors, as I understand it from my friends who are like dye wizards, and this is their big passion, some of the hard neon colors would be hard to get with the vegetative dyes.
Okay.
But so you might not get safety orange, still get a really intense orange.
Oh, okay.
And completely period mordants and period plant dyes and insect dyes and stuff like that. Why, yes, you're so charming. I'll just snort because I have a respiratory infection.
So you mentioned when you got up to become a Laurel, but do you have any other like favorite memories that really stick out in your head?
There are a lot. It's a matter of, you know, how do you, you know, there have been songs that have been sung that have brought me to happy tears and to shattered tears. The memorial pieces for, you know, the Middle Kingdom. As a matter of fact, they were our second to last royals before we went kingdom. He came down with what they thought was just a flu. I forget what the hell it was, but he was like dead in less than a month.
Oh my God.
And so they had a crown princess who was a brand new, you know, I don't know if they were married or, you know, living together, but essentially widowed. And so coronation included an entire day of memorial tournament and poems and songs and artwork.
Wow.
Yeah, that was beautiful in its intensity because we have ways of expressing it that a lot of don't have. That and I mean she reigned, you know, the entire 6 months.
Wow.
She had all the knights of the mid-realm swore to stand by her and advise her.
Oh,
you know,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so you've got those kinds of moments. You know, ditto when Osis was killed in a car accident, and Bernie and, you know, Bubba survived, and those grief and beauty and supporting each other that the SCA is so extraordinarily good at. You know, and I've seen that happen a few times. Because, you know, we're not just local function people, and so it means we spend time on the road. Sometimes, you know, people drive down and they party the night before if they're, you know, crashing somewhere, and then they fight and play and eat, and then they go home and they may party all night, and then they get up after 4 hours of sleep, and then they drive all the way home, and you get tired.
Yeah.
And we've always been aware we're not invulnerable, but sometimes we like thinking we're slightly more invulnerable.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, beautiful poetry, exquisite garb that walked out of a painting, a nice, clean tournament where whether the winner is somebody you're expecting, or like, wow, where did that hot stick suddenly come from? You know, my pelicaning was, you know, 30 years after my laurel, and because I have so many dear friends in so many different places, I actually had 3 vigils, making up for the fact there were no vigils when I got my laurel, right? So there was one in my home group at one of the events that I had started back when rocks were soft, because a lot of my friends were, you know, locals weren't going to be going to Penzic that year. Still, it's expensive. It's a long drive.
Yeah.
And if you're working during the summer, you may or may not be able to get the time off, right?
Yeah,
so I had
for sure.
a local vigil here. I had a big vigil at Estrella, where my friends from the south and west and from kingdoms that, you know, because I by that point I wasn't going to Penzic because I worked. And they moved Penzic, and now it falls exactly on my final exam week. So,
oh, of course,
not happy, not happy SCA person. But I did one at Estrella, and the Baron and Baroness of Tyrjusgither loaned me their big court tent for that, and that was extraordinary because a lot of people. I'm in both the Great Dark Horde and Rolling Thunder. Thunder is kind of the, you know, the outlaw SCA stick jock kind of households, and unbeknownst to me, all the matriarchs and patriarchs told their members that I was going to be on vigil at this time, at this time, and you need to go there and you need to talk to her because she's been in for 30 some years, and you know she's been in Thunder for a long time, and you need to listen to her. So I got, I mean, and I have. One guy came, and it was his first Estrella. He'd been in the SCA for about a year, and he'd been in the Boy Scouts for a long time, and he was still all starry-eyed about how amazing the SCA is. Aww. And it was new, and it has, you know, the values of the Boy Scouts, and but with all the other value-added, historical, and fighting and all that. And he'd been in less than a year, and he got told to talk to me. And ask me, you know, what some of the most important things about the SCA were. So I got somebody brand new that came into my tent to talk to me. And then one of my dearest friends, Duke Frederick Holland, Fleeg, as everybody knows him. Old bard, old herald, old everything. He was the very first party in Berkeley in 1966. So he goes down to, you know, the first ever party, the backyard party.
Wow.
And Fleeg, who I've known for a long time, he was teaching for a few years at State University, New York, Buffalo. So he was right near Toronto, and that meant when I was still living there, you know, we were all doing events in those two groups a lot because there was not a lot of anything around you. And then Fleeg showed up, so I had somebody who'd been in less than a year, and somebody who had been in since the very first backyard party at Diana Paxton's house.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was extraordinary. The vigil went on for 6.5 hours, people just kept coming. And then, you know, I was elevated at Trinavantia at Break the Back of Winter. And so we did a whole day, you know, 3/4 of a day vigil there for everyone that had come up for it. I had friends, Chirurgeon friends, who flew in from Ontier in the west, and Callantyre in the east to be there. I cried a lot. I like joking that I cry at the drop of anybody's hat.
I'm the exact same way.
And people know it. So Evelyn, who's our current Baroness here, and Emilo, who is an extraordinary cook, historical cook and historical Tudor costumer, I had no idea. They just said they had a gift for me for my vigil, and they made appropriate to their periods garb in my heraldic colors. And I have one of them here. This is what was so screamingly funny. They both showed up with a tissue box painted in my this one was blue and the other one was red for Ealdormere. On pillows, quilted pillows with little dangles on them. And they just hugged me all day, and anytime I started to cry, they would just hand it and I would pull a tissue. And anyone else who started to cry during my vigil got handed. They were my tissue carriers for the whole thing.
Oh my God, that's adorable.
I know. I laughed and I cried, and it was extraordinary. And I got to think about it and what it meant, and taking students, both as a single peer and as a double peer, and things like that. I'd had apprentices, but teaching or coaching somebody for service is a different kind of animal. I can teach you about period embroidery, or I can teach you about the mechanics of writing a sonnet or something like that. But the qualities of, again, quoting my dear friend Master Hector, service is rendered versus chaos engendered. To run an event, to be an officer, to serve, it's more fugitive.
Yeah.
It's not the same as just putting a flow chart up and saying, and this is how we do it.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of mentoring to me, being a pelican and a laurel.
Yeah, for sure. That would be, I'm sure part of that's probably just innate, how well someone's able to deal with that.
Some people have a knack. I can teach them things like, so many months in advance, you should be checking to make sure you have a site and what the pricing is, and make sure the pricing, isn't going to make your overall cost for the event too expensive. And, a lot of the events I ran were always based on a theme. And I made sure everything that happened all day was connected to that theme. I've run
I love that.
Henry and Eleanor events, because that's Eleanor of Aquitaine was one of my all-time heroes. So when you walked in, you got a little booklet with little facts and a schedule, because we had a quest looking for certain things that were related to Henry and Eleanor throughout the site. The food was all, and we divided the feast into two, and you booked in advance if you wanted to sit on the English side or the French side. And it was all food from about their period. You were getting the same core food. Both sides would get chicken. But what sauce was on it was it more English of the period or French of the period?
Oh, that's so cool.
It was awesome doing the research, and I did not do the cooking, but watching the research and watching them formulate that whole idea was extraordinary.
Yeah.
So everything that would happen, we the tournament, the rattan tournament, Kess and Mencken helped me with this, and we came up, because in that era, a knight was somebody who owned horses. That was very important. Knights had horses. And so Mencken helped me structure. He did most of the structuring on the tournament. And then Kess did a whole bunch of his, period embarding horse heads as charms that were on cord. And if you wanted to, your bout, you got a horse head. So all the fighters collect these horse heads, and if you got so many horse heads, none of them in your bed. If you got a certain amount of horse heads, then you traded the silver colored ones in for a gold colored one. And the winner of the tournament was the person who had ultimately the most horse heads at the end of the tournament.
Oh, very cool.
It was awesome. I gave them back, most of them. Hopefully at some point again, they'll run something like that. And she didn't melt them down to make other things.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean whenever I ran an event, there would be something thematic. Now, Everwick once, Grass or Hugo, ran an Italian Wren event, and he was adamant you had to wear Italian Wren garb.
Mm.
That's hard for a lot of people who don't sew.
Yeah.
Who aren't at all interested in that period, in that period.
Yeah.
It got a lot of flack, and some people, in order to protest, showed up in 100% really awful polyester Italian Wren. We're very good at it being, difficult in a very polite way in this case.
Yeah.
So I never made it a prerequisite to wear garb of those periods. We're an educational organization, and I wanted to have a little education in with the fun.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think that's a fantastic way of doing events.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of it here. Events, and they all have differences, but there's sort of certain stock formulae that they follow now.
Yeah.
Somebody else needs to break out and choose. I mean, one of the very best out of the box events was run by my late best friend, Master Nain here. And along with being, a national Irish harp champion, running an authentic Baroque ensemble with all the costumes on the Baroque instruments.
Oh my goodness.
Not modern ones.
Yeah.
And the powdered wigs and the whole bit. Some of the members were dancers, and they do the correct dances to the music they played. So along with all of this extraordinary breadth of knowledge, he was also a Mohawk from Ganawagi outside of Montreal. His mother was clan mother. Long hair, and I mean, he looked as Mohawk as they come. And so he ran an Old World, New World event.
Oh.
So, you were invited to do either, New World garb or European garb. And the feast was one of the only times we had turkey and pumpkin, on the menu at an SCA feast. And he did himself up as a Mayan. He had a fake gold lip plug and the exact proper clothing and the whole bit.
Oh, wow.
Good looking man, and the gold and the loincloth, and oh my goodness gracious, and long hair. But, wasn't the only one that did that. And so the feast, again, was authentic and they really did look in some of those transitional cookbooks for some of the unusual. I mean, Europe knew what to do with turkeys. They do swan, do birds, they get birds.
Yeah.
But pumpkin, squashes are all from over here. There were none that were indigenous to Europe.
Oh.
So that was one of these, what exactly do we do with it foods? Ditto tomato. Depending on where you were in Europe, depends on when these things came into the old world and into eating, into food wise. I mean, it's hard to imagine today Italian food without tomatoes, but or potatoes in Ireland, but again, it's New World, it's not old world.
Oh, interesting.
So one of the very most innovative, really cool events was his Old World, New World event way back when.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah. I wish I could say, and I challenge all of you people who are autocrating events now, once you get out of the eventing at home thing, to think outside the box and thematically do a bunch of the stuff based on your theme.
Yeah.
Pick a period, you may want to pick a region or not, just say, 10th century, 12th century, Everwick did a great Normans versus Saxons event. Norman pig, Saxon dog. And so you came and I don't know whether it was an armband or a sticker you put on your garb, and it was either a pig or a dog. And it was all about the Saxons against the Normans, and whoever got the most beans in these various Bardic competition, fighting, and that's the side that won. And the feast was based upon that general era historically.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I would love to see that. Yeah.
Shake the tree and get. We will still have a fair bit of time, so we need to get autocrats and head cooks and things thinking this way now. It's the time to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the time to sit home and go on the internet and research the stuff.
How difficult is it to plan an event? How difficult would you say?
It depends on the size of what you're going. I mean, things like a Kingdom ANS or a Crown or a Coronation, they're both easier and harder because you're going to have more people. But on the other hand, there are things that have to be there. And so you're on a lot for you to have to think outside the box and plot. As a potential autocrat, you decide what you want to do. Are you going to have a feast, or are you not going to have a feast? You're going to do a potluck? Are you going to do a day board where people, can their gate fee will include a nice lunch that's out there for them, and not have a feast, because you got other stuff set for the evening and you've got a break of an hour or two for people to go out and eat, whatever. So it really, you need to trust the people who are going to work with you. If you're going to be the autocrat, somebody else needs to do the cooking, needs to be in charge of cooking. And then you hopefully have somebody who's willing to take over servers. Because some groups do not potluck, but, kind of buffet style. I don't know. We're going to be allowed to do that when we get back going again.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that.
The look of events will be somewhat different. Once we get this idiocy enough under control. I expect we'll start having, day events in parks. From rec centers for the parks for the first while.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's going to be wearing a mask for a while.
Well, yes, but if you pick up a mask from Fettered Cock Pewters, which is, Mistress Cass, she sells some very nice ones with both tongue-in-cheek and some pretty good-looking, historical print. Match your Tudor gown. Linens period, cottons period, go for it. Plague masks are period. I've seen a couple of them popping up on, on photos that
people making like leather plague masks.
So I mean, we'll probably have to mask up for a while, and this is not the first plague that's hit the Western world. So let's get on with it. Do your research now.
Yep. All right, so I think I have one more question, and then I will let you go. So what would you say, or would you have any particular words of advice or recommendations for people who are just starting out in the SCA?
Number one, remember this is supposed to be fun. Okay? And if somebody comes over to you, part of this is the people who meet new people. There's a way to pass on advice based on once you've been in for a while, and what a new person, if you don't recognize them, may have no idea, such as, that's a really, nice attempt. Remember, like I said, 2 bath sheets pinned at the shoulders and and a drapery tie, for heaven's sake. Nobody generally walks in quite that cold anymore. If somebody's wearing a white belt to, belt in their little old tunic, their little cotton tunic, they're borrowing from Gold Key or something, don't go over and say, you can't wear that. You're a knight, you're from another kingdom, and you can't. Be nice about it. And so if somebody says, do you know about white belts in this, you've been around for a few months, you go, no. If they're not going to be nice about it, then go ask somebody else. Usually SCA people are generally pretty good about being gentle and kind about things.
For sure.
And, what do I say? I say, have fun. Don't jump into the deep end and expect to immediately be wearing, full Elizabethan or wearing, 1550s high plate armor. Yes, some of you may go to Penzic and, you leave Penzic and you look like been in for 10 years. But remember that a lot of what you're seeing are people who've been in for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
People like me. But, you can bankrupt yourself very easily.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't do that. Borrow, get to know people. Because it's ultimately as much fun as we have doing the history and the reenacting. It's about the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding people who are passionate about the things that really caught your eye when you went to your first event and went, this might be fun, I'm not sure. You know, if you are a dancer, there may or may not be time for dance at an event, but, you know, check around and there are huge networks of dance people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ask the local folks, you know, what do you like doing? Figure out, you know, because we're talking about 1,500 years of history,
Yeah.
primarily European history. So figure out what interests you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you pick all of Europe and little pieces of, you know, Asia, a little bit of North Africa, right? What in that entire range of history, culture-wise, would you like to be? Would you like to?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not stuck doing just that one thing. You don't have to be just that one persona for your entire time in the SCA.
Mm-hmm.
Help out a little bit. You'll meet cool people in the kitchen. You'll meet cool people running the list table, you know, making sure that there's water out there for fighters and stuff. Ask questions, watch, listen, you know, go to a lot of local meetings are kind of boring because a lot of it's admin and not a whole lot of, and now we're going to have an embroidery class or something, or calligraphy class. But find out what of the myriad rainbow, we're really about 45 hobbies rolled into one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, and I've always said that. It's why the SCA has made me so happy continually for so many decades. I may have my issues with the corporate SCA Inc., but that is not the people, and it's not the fun stuff. So
yeah.
I was a deputy society seneschal, trust me. Officer, deputy society Kayurchin. So I have my feelings as a Canadian in an organization that is being run by American law and American expectations and things.
Yeah.
But new people, I would say, look at all the things we do. Ask people about stuff, you know, spinning, right? Weaving, research into garb and clig, loom, all this stuff. What do you like doing? Find out who does it in your area and not in your area. Find out, I mean, right now, this is the golden time to choose what kind of things interest you because it's all gone online, right? You can do a historical beading class. You can do a historical storytelling class. You can get taught about fighting moves by watching some of the best dukes in the SCA showing you and breaking it down slow with a camera. So even if you can't get out to whatever place to meet these legends, these master artisans, cooks, blah, 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 you can tell I keep coming back to cooking. You know, this is a time where you can find out a lot of what interests you, so that when we start being back in person, you can zero in on it and get involved.
Yeah, you can really like dive into it easier.
Yeah, and you have some idea of what's out there that we do. Not even just within our kingdom.
Yeah.
Bardic, they do, you know, they've got a big virtual Pensic, I think it's next weekend. 2 whole days of storytelling and song and poetry from all across the known world.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, if these are the kinds of things that you know, light the fire under you, even if you're not going to do anything, even if you don't have a background in it, but you write modern poetry, modern songs, that would be a place to sit in and watch some of it and say, hey, yeah, I really like this. Or, yeah, it's not quite my thing.
Definitely.
So, you know, put your toe in. Don't jump in, you know, into the water over the deep end if you don't have a life preserver.
Yeah.
I understand that we have very deep waters and they're very comfortable, and you may find yourself finding 15 new hobbies.
Yeah, for sure.
Have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest one. And yeah, if you're not having fun in a certain area, try a different one for a little while.
Find another one. We have lots.
Oh yeah.
And some of us will chew your ear off until you don't want to hear about it again. But it's okay to say, I think I've had enough now. Thank you, Tsivia.
Yeah. No, I don't want a bit. I will always listen to these stories. I love them. And yeah, it's
Only
endlessly
scratch
fascinating.
surface, trust me.
Oh, I
Like I
believe
said,
you.
this coming March, it just occurred to me when I saw that, and I went, oh my gosh, this March I've been playing, not a paid member for all 50 years, because you didn't get anything in the beginning except for just a little, mimeographed paper with what was going on, and you found your friends for that. But I have been active in this organization as of mid-March for 50 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it kind of boggled my mind when I realized that too. I can't be a day over 35. Where'd that happen? The advantage of having, you see, Qui-Fon is you don't quite.
Oh, you don't show all the gray.
That. Yeah, exactly. It's all neatly tucked away. My hair was brown black when I was younger. I mean, literally, almost not quite raven wing black, but a dark brown black.
Oh wow!
There's still about 20 of those hairs left somewhere.
Oh, it's still black for sure. It's just all hidden under the coif.
I was going to say, trust me. Trust me! Look at that face. Don't you trust me?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Very trustworthy face.
Of course.
All right. Well, I think I will, I'll let you get on with your life.
I was going to say, at this particular time of the evening, it's actually time for me to get supper. I live on the other side of the clock. I go to bed between 5 and 7 in the morning, and I sleep between 2 and 3:30. This is ever since I was a kid.
Really?
So it's just my mid-late afternoon now.
Oh,
everybody else is going, oh my God. Yeah, that's why 7 p.m. I'm like, yeah, I've been up about 3 hours. I'm coherent. I get into garb and we can do this.
Okay, perfect then.
All right. Well, let me know. I don't know where you post these and everything, but yeah, send me a link.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll give them to Colin usually, and then he'll edit them, or I'll probably end up editing a little bit because he said 50 minutes, and I think we hit like 2 hours. So
I think so. When you said that, I'm like, one topic do you want to go for that long? I'm a storyteller. I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't mind a bit. We can cut it up into like multiple episodes. So
I was gonna say you might want to, depending on the topic.
Yeah.
I did write a history of the kingdom up to the foundation of the principality. It's called My Homeland Beloved Ealdormere, and I still have a few copies. So yeah, I can go on forever.
Oh, and honestly, I could probably keep asking you questions forever, so it's probably best that we stop now.
I think so, because, I have half of a T-bone steak downstairs and some fresh corn.
Ooh, all right. I'll let you get that dinner then. Thank you so much.
It's lovely doing this with you, Robin.
Yeah, it was lovely meeting you.
At least virtually.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the future, we can do this in person.
That would be fantastic. I look forward to it.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Thanks to Colin for hooking me up on this. I was quite honored, actually.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you again for doing this.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.